All right, Cyber Traders, welcome on back here this Thursday afternoon, April 7th. Looks like Robert just picked up some good money on the SBFM stock. Great to see Robert, great to see Michael, great to see all of us live inside the Cyber Group room. And if you're joining us once again on social media, Facebook Live or YouTube, welcome on back as well. Folks, we have the ATER on the screen. We'll jump to Robert's SBFM in just a moment. Great to see Michael and Will joining us here inside the Cyber Group room, loud and clear from both of them. Hopefully everyone else could hear me loud and clear as well. But let's hop to it here on the ATER. ATER ended up making a really nice trend going into just really right around noontime after. Ended up bouncing off the lows, and we didn't really call it out off the lows. Obviously, once it started to really push up and pop up on our gainers list, our scanner, that's when we ended up putting more of a focus on this trade. So for this afternoon, just right now, hey, it looks as good as anything that we could find here at this time. So we'll definitely put the ATER on our watch list just to begin. I don't have level 4 up for this trade just yet. I'm doing that in the moment, but looks like we do have a bunch of bigger orders collectively out there. I see about 33,000 shares right at 380. I see about 21,000 shares on the ask at 385, even up top at 398. All right, so enough filibustering. Let's get the book map up here. How do we look? Well, you have resistance at 4, bigger resistance for about 53 plus thousand shares. But to be truthful, what we saw in the matrix is very similar to what we see here. There's not really a clear resistance until 4. A couple of those smaller 21,000 share orders, maybe on another stock they wouldn't be so small, but this stock, it's pretty liquid. So even at 380, although it's kind of having a tough time breaking higher from there, you could definitely see the bigger resistance ahead, and also the resistance that seemed to be bigger compared to 380 now. 370, hopefully that could be a bit of a support level for us going into this afternoon. If it pulls back from here, perhaps we could see 370, previous iceberg resistance level, hold as support. All right, so Robert made about 19 cents on the SBFM trade. He got out at 8:43. He was in from 8:24, and Bill is in right now from the 8:21 price. So it looks like that both of them had similar entries. Well, with this trade, at least after the market opened up, it took its time. It was messy at first. It was not an easy trade. I actually ended up using a couple of different fib levels on this stock alongside all of the iceberg levels that we were following, namely off the dollar marks, $7, $8, high of the day, practically $9. So, this trade ended up moving as expected in that sense, but we ended up seeing some really good support on this trade. It was a little bit later on after the market opened up, but we ended up seeing that right around 775, 780. It ended up holding past resistance as support, but it ended up making for a great slingshot going into the early afternoon. Let me zoom in on this chart and I'll show you. It ended up breaking under $8. It held under $8 pretty nicely here, but once it rebroke back above 8, well, that's where it ended up making the next move up. But again, you got to be careful around these dollar levels. Looks like it had a tough time trying to even test 9. Actually hit the high of 895 before snapping back down right at 1 p.m. there. Hey, alongside the ATER trade. I'll put this on our watch list for right now. It's pretty choppy. Just looking at this trend throughout the day, you would definitely want to see a more decisive move upward going into the afternoon. And again, if we build up a really good list, from this point forward, as we now go across the gainers and losers list, if we build up a really big list and this is just choppy, then I would have no problem pulling the plug on this trade and taking it off our list. But for right now, we'll put it on there. The MDVL trade, at least as we now go from top to bottom now, ended up making a nice pop shortly after the market opened up, but it ended up making that higher low, made that higher high even later on. So this stock ended up giving us a lot more compared to what we thought it was going to do even after that initial pop. Ended up building support off of 115, pushed back upward, as I said, topped off at 150. not just the whole number of price levels, but for a less expensive trade like this, a trade that typically trades in smaller, tinier increments, yeah, you're definitely likely to find big resistance, not just at the dollar levels, but at the 50-cent levels too. So, namely, that being at 150, we have about 80,000 shares that's still on the ask at that price for the MDVL. Listen, I just feel like this type of stock is more exhausted right now compared to anything. Prior to today, this stock was trading about 178,000 shares on average. It's trading 60 plus million shares right now. So, that's where I say this stock is more likely than not to just be exhausted. You can say the same on MTNS. MTNS really briefly, this had, such a strong level of support today, and it was based just off of historical charting. You didn't really need to focus. Well, you needed to focus on level 3, but for this specific level, you didn't need to focus as much on level 3 as you really needed to focus on the daily chart. Back from the beginning of this year, from January into February, we ended up seeing the MTNS hold pretty nicely, really nicely, in fact, under 435, give or take a penny, I think. So for today, I made this call out shortly after 11 o'clock Eastern time, folks. After this pop, I was telling you, watch out. I think it's going to pull back down to support that historical level off 435. Well, that led to a really clean entry. Unfortunately, this didn't squeeze off the 435 level. It didn't really run back up. It held above 435, but under 450. So what I'll say here is what I always say: if it's not going to break higher, if the stock's not going to, continue to go up, there's only one other direction the stock's going to go in. The chart goes from left to right and stocks go up and down. I wish it was always as simple as that, but in the sense of anticipating general direction, it is as simple as that. You don't want to be stuck into this trade hoping for this to just, move off that 435 if it's not gonna. If it's not going to break higher, there's only one other way the stock's going to go. So as soon as it ended up breaking below 435, that thing was cooked. So yeah, I mean, unless if it makes a flash pop back above 35, which I don't expect for it to do, I'm not as keen to follow this stock for the afternoon. Nice historical chart level here from the 35 price, but I feel like at this point it's more likely to dump off. All right, stock that's not dumping off just yet, SST, ended up making a really big pop for us back, I think it was on Tuesday. Stock went from 20 up to like 35 and change. Maybe that's even 37. Another thing that I always say here in this meeting, folks, I actually said it 24 hours ago, yesterday. When the volume dies off for a stock, typically so does the stock. So with that, once we started to see the waning of volume after it hit its peak here, really, after it topped off around that $37 price, when the volume bars get smaller and smaller when it wanes down, typically so does the stock. So, I could have said that on the other one as well. But for SST, at least for this afternoon, looking at the intraday chart for today, it's kind of close to the highs. It was moving up pretty nicely up until 2 o'clock. It's got a paper thin order book, though. This is more of a gamble stock than anything, not a casino gambling stock like MGM. Like, you're gambling by trying to trade this stock and anticipate a further move. So I'm going to pass on this for right now. SST. SBFM not really showing a great trend up. I might take this off the list like I'd said at the end. All right, we'll jump to NEO, not NIO. I'm going to say this joke now for a little while now, but NEO stock got crushed like a week or two ago. That's when we first found this trade off a big gap down. Well, we took our eyes off this stock for a little while, and then all of a sudden today, it took a little while, but ended up making a pretty nice run after the market opened up, broke higher, going into like 1 o'clock, 1:30 Eastern time. So this definitely seems to be a gap fill opportunity. Ended up making a great run up towards 14 and change. False break the first test of that whole number level at 14. Definitely goes on our list. Just I want to be a little careful about this dip point. Looks like back from mid-March, looks like the NEO trade bottomed out at 14 and at 1390. Pretty interesting. Well, it kind of topped off just earlier at 14 and change. So, although it ended up making a nice little pop here, it didn't completely fill the gap from where it had broken down from last week. It ended up topping off from the last dip point that we had back from mid March. So, just be mindful of that. We'll put this on our watch list. But again, if the volume continues to wane down on this trade, like I showed on the other, then again, this is more likely to pull back in that case. All right, we keep it going here, folks. CXM, not a whole lot happening there. The IMAC trade was a pop and drop from pre-market. That was ugly. Let's just kind of skim down the gainer side here, just looking at any other familiar names or any other stocks that we've traded pretty recently. Here's the UEC stock. I know that Rich called this out in the trading room a bit earlier, just generally saying the uranium stocks approaching the HOD high of the day, if I'm not mistaken. UEC is a uranium stock. It is the first word in the company name. So with that, UEC is making a pretty good move. What's the other one, Rich? We had UEC and then there's another U one. Was it what, quadruple U? Was it quadruple U? Was that it? This is another one that's like at the highs, holding pretty nicely here. A little bit slower compared to the UEC, I feel. Maybe that's just maybe I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong with that, but both are very tradable. The UEC to me is more of a no-brainer. I feel like this one definitely should be put on our watch list, and more for the sake of not just it being at the highest today, but look at the daily chart. This is approaching resistance or at resistance from the last like month, right? Is quadruple U doing the same thing? Let's see. It's not as close to its daily resistance or resistance from the daily chart there, above $10, that is. So UEC definitely, I like that one a lot. Rich chatting to me here, I think also on the side, he had said CCJ also is another one. True, and this one did break above resistance from the daily chart. Is this at all-time highs? Nope, not all-time highs, but multi-year highs at that. So looks pretty strong. It's a $30, $31 stock, but at the highs, I'd kind of, put this on in the same line as like the quadruple U. I'll come back to both of these at the end, but the UEC in particular, I really like. That one will definitely make the main list. All right. I saw BFRI here somewhere, Leda. Leda wrote BFRI, and I didn't see the chart yet. I'm excited to take a look. Let's see. Oh, there we go. Number 18. BFRI we're pretty familiar with. We ended up seeing this stock from the end of last year make a huge run. And it was a new IPO at that too. So it broke all-time highs back then. Ended up dropping off. Well, today it's up. It's at the highs. It's not trading a whole lot of volume across the day. So, be a little careful about that, but it's enough for us to follow, that's for sure. And the order book is not too spread out just yet. So, for right now, the BFRI looks pretty good. I like it. All right, let's see what else we got on the gainer side here, folks. Here's our quadruple U. Here's the CCJ trade to go alongside the UEC. BCRX is a familiar name. We've traded this one quite a number of times over the year on and off. Relatively close to the highs. The thing on this is that it's not really trading a lot of volume per minute. It's trading about 7 or 8,000 shares per minute. We've seen it trade a lot more at a time. So I'll come back to this at the end. Doesn't look bad. Looks actually pretty damn good. But I want to be a little picky here at this point just to see if there's anything that looks, even better. So Grant here in the cyber group room says Save is going up fast today. Now at 26.44, Airlines, Old Spirit. Yeah, Spirit's having a nice little day, at least across the afternoon. It kind of just resembles like just a tradable stock, regular tradable stock. If it was moving even faster, I'd be more interested in it. But that's where I could say the same likely on a lot of different stocks, not even to say airline stocks. Like, I know one of us loves AMC, wouldn't miss it in a 50-year storm. But AMC is not really moving that well right. I'm sure he'll trade it still, probably does well on it, but unless if a stock is at the highs or at the lows, unless if it's looking like ATER here, or similar. I'm not going to be fully vested in it just yet. Will calling out DNN inside the live trading room. It's at the highs. I like that part. It's like watching the grass grow here too, though. So, that's where I say at the same time, you have to, have a happy medium. You want to find a stock that has a little volatility to it. This is like, yeesh. Unless if you're in from 170, 168-ish, I don't know if it's going to be worth the squeeze there. Let's hop on over to the loser side, see if there's anything looking just as good, if not better there. Market made a hell of a bounce today, folks. So if there's anything that is up or at the highs, moving, pretty nicely, type it in the chat board. Let me know. APTX. Yeesh. I mean, shortable, down big. You would think that either direction, a continued drop off as a short or a dead cat bounce, and a little long opportunity didn't give us either. So this was probably worst case scenario for this APTX. Just it was a waste of time, unfortunately. The Rite Aid trade also, I didn't see any other headline out on Rite Aid aside from the following. I think Deutsche Bank ended up downgrading Rite Aid. They ended up giving it a price target from 16 bucks originally to $1. So why did they do that? I don't know. I could probably look into it if I had the time. That's the only headline that I see. It's not even like earnings affiliated. It's the only headline. Just says Deutsche Bank downgrades stock from hold to sell and lowers their price target from 16 to 1. So goes to show how bullish they are on this trade, seemingly, right? Ended up making a nice drop off from this morning. Could have been a great short. Right now, this trade's pretty flat, though. IQ's not looking as flat. I mean, dropped off earlier. Really good short opportunity from the morning. It's slowly trotting back down, and it is tradable. That could be a short. I know Chuck was asking if anyone saw the Cannon short from earlier today, and that was more heading into like the mid morning here. So in hindsight, that could have been a nice trade to capture as well. But and actually, it's squeezing up a little bit right now. But again, I'm going to pass on it. Another Chinese stock, KC, to go alongside the IQ trade. Both are making a very similar pattern, actually. Billy, too, if I'm not mistaken, another Chinese stock. We've been following a lot of the Chinese stocks, together similarly throughout the last couple of weeks. SoFi, I don't think is Chinese stock, but just looking at it anyway, down big. What else was there? There was another couple of Chinese stocks, like Neo. Obviously, we've had our eyes on for a while. Neo was a really good trade from the morning. I missed out on the short. I caught the bounce from 1977 up towards 2026, where it's trading at now. That was from a bit earlier, but I don't know. Again, I could say the same on Neo as I said earlier on Save, as I said on AMC. Kind of just like a regular middle of the road tradable stock right now. All right, let's hop back to the uranium stocks there. The quadruple U, it's at the highs, right? So if I'm putting the UEC on our watch list at this point, I'll put the quadruple U on there. I'll also put CCJ on there too. All right, folks, if there's anything else up, down, left, right, more than 5% that you would want me to check out briefly, type it in the chat board. Let me know. I had a trade on ADN earlier today. I called it out off 332. Led to a nice pop at first. Pulled back, though. I only made like 2 cents on it. And just it was a call out from earlier going into this meeting, but didn't really do much with it after. All right, going to check Benzinga Pro pretty briefly. BFRI is on the top of their gainer scanner right now alongside MDVL. Ooh, MDVL is trying to go back up right now. Looking just a little bit better from when we last looked at this trade. All right, doesn't hurt us to slip this on our watch list now, MDVL. I just wrote MDLV on my notepad. Goes to show my trader's dyslexia. All right, folks, I think that just about wraps it up here for me. Couple last ones via chat right now on YouTube. The LVO stock, not a whole lot happening there. And then SEAC, big volume spike, tried it up a tiny amount, not a whole lot happening with that. Ooh, BTU. Actually, just had like a flash pop just a moment ago. A bunch of volume got filled. Volume started to wane down, but this ended up pushing back up a little bit. So I don't know if there's news specific that came out on BTU. I could at least quickly check that. Nope. No headline on this one. Hey, this actually looks better than like NIO or AMC or like the other middle of the road stocks. Um, I'll keep it on the side list for right now. Listen, if you do well on this stock day to day, I'm sure you'd be more interested in following this one. So far, maybe by 3 o'clock, if none of the other stocks from the watch list make a real good move, then we'll put more of a spotlight on this BTU. All right, for all of us on Facebook Live and YouTube, I appreciate you sticking with me each and every day, each and every afternoon. If you wanted to learn more, you have a couple of options. You always feel free to shoot me a quick email. I wrote back to one of us last night. If you have any other questions, thoughts, comments, suggestions about our call outs, our trading, our watch lists entirely, send it on over via email. Otherwise, though, if you wanted to continue to follow along with these broadcasts, just give us a like and subscribe right on our YouTube channel, that being youtube.com/cybertradingyou. That way you can know when we're going live, when we're not, and so forth. All right, so for all of us inside our live trading room right now, Grant, Michael, couple comments here really quickly. Henry's saying BTU is a coal ETF. I don't think BTU is an ETF. I think it's a publicly traded company. Michael says Mara shortable. But I was long. Did you check it? Kind of like a middle of the road stock, sideless stock. All right, folks, I'm going to jump back on the mic coming up at 3:30. I know that Rich L will jump on the mic right at 3 o'clock, and then I'll tag him out from there. I'll talk to you all soon. Take care.
Become a Cyber Group member today. Just click the link below and receive all these amazing products and a world of knowledge for just $9.